What does Oklahoma's post-spring power rankings look like in the SEC? We'll discuss what SEC Mike had to say coming up next year on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So SEC Mike from that SEC podcast, Jay, came out with his post-spring power rankings, and the Oklahoma Sooners came in at number 6.
Moved Oklahoma up, dropped Tennessee to 12. And it's funny because a lot of people were attacking him about it and said, Oklahoma, why would you say that? Why would you pick Oklahoma? And he just flat out said, Oklahoma had the best transfer portal season of anybody in the SEC in his eyes. I don't see anything wrong there, John. Kind of checks out.
Yeah, ain't nothing wrong with that. So he's got Texas at number 1, Georgia at number 2, Alabama 3, LSU 4, Texas A&M 5, Oklahoma is at 6, right in front of Florida, Ole Miss, South Carolina, and everybody's spring darling Auburn, who comes in at number 10.
Everyone loves Auburn right now. I actually was looking at some of the odds for win totals for, next season. Auburn, they're still at 7.5, and depending on the book, it's like a minus, 250, 300. There's a lot of love right now for Auburn to win a lot more games than we expect. Like, I'm looking over here on FanDuel, and it's at 7.5 at minus 158. That's jumped up since I last looked at it. Do we really believe in Hugh Freeze? It's nothing against the man, but at the same time, I've seen his story before. I would understand people doubting Oklahoma in a way, but this is, Brent Venables' first time being the head coach. He's in his first tenure of coaching, so we usually give a little bit more leeway to see where the team goes, especially with the refreshes he's had and changes. He's brought in offensive coordinators. He's made adjustments. We'll see if those work out. We saw what Hugh Freeze did over at Ole Miss and how he ended up getting in trouble. We saw he went to Liberty and did some stuff there. Then he came back. Same mistakes. As an offensive-minded guy, he makes the same mistakes we always complain about when it comes to coaches. He just puts his quarterbacks in the worst positions. Against us is a great example, John. Why did they throw the ball? Your running back was averaging 6 yards a carry. Just hand the ball off. What are we doing here? But instead, he throws the ball. We get a pick six and we win the game. Now, I'm happy that he made the mistake that he does on a regular basis. But are we really throwing our eggs into the Hugh Freeze basket this time around?
I'm not ready to do that.
I'm not
as
either.
Much as I still think that Jackson Arnold can be a really good college quarterback, it's the Hugh Freeze thing. That's a big issue. And if they can overcome some of the turnover issues that plagued them last year, then I think they have a chance to be pretty good. But I got to see it. I got to see them improve. Auburn was a turnover-prone team last year. They brought in Jackson Arnold, who, despite my affinity for him as a quarterback, had a ton of turnovers last year in some really inopportune times. If he can resolve that and get over some of that mentally, then I think they'll have a chance to be pretty good. Who's a team, Jay, that is behind Oklahoma that you think maybe should be in front of Oklahoma?
When I look at it, honestly, the only team that I think probably warrants a little bit more love, it would probably be either Florida or South Carolina. I think Florida's going to be poised to have a really good year if DJ Lagway comes back from this shoulder soreness and he is the team that he's the player that he was before he got hurt last year. I think that he's poised to definitely step up in the light and be elite. So I think Florida maybe deserves a little bit more respect. They returned a good amount of players. I got to look at their returning production again to see if it's really at the spot where it needs to be. But in my honest opinion, it does not feel like Florida should be better off. They are coming into winter, before the spring portal. We'll have a new look at that once Bill Connelly drops his and I go through my research. But Florida, it was ranked 18th in the country, returning 66% of their talent, 36th in offense, 25th on defense. So they return a lot of defenders and a lot of offensive players. When we look at the spring portal stuff, we'll have a better idea of, what they're going to be going into the fall, but they should not drop much here, like at all. And if that's the case, Florida deserves a little bit more respect. Now, Auburn is also returning a lot. The big difference for me when it comes to Auburn is they brought in a whole bunch more wide receivers. They brought in, which wide receivers is probably the one position I'm not too concerned about. The running back room, I don't know yet, but they brought in a whole bunch of new quarterbacks. That to me is a little bit more concerning, especially because Ashton Daniels lost his job and so did Jackson Arnold. If Deuce Knight is as good as I'm hearing he is, he's probably going to have a DJ Lagway-like season. And he's going to be the starter, which the team's probably not going to perform as well as they want, but he's going to be leading them in a higher trajectory. If Hugh Freeze is still there after the season, if they have a bad year and Hugh Freeze is still there, I think Deuce Knight's going to have a great year in 26. Then South Carolina is probably the other one I'm kind of curious about, but they lost a lot of defensive players. That might not... I don't know if Lenore Sellers is going to be able to carry them by himself.
Yeah, and he'll have to, because that defense, I don't think, is going to be as good. Will it be good? Yeah. Will it be a problem? Yeah, in certain situations, in certain circumstances. But I just don't think consistently they're going to be able to get as big a pass rush as they got last year. Remember, they lost Kyle Kennard to the NFL draft. They lost a safety into the top 50 of the NFL draft, several defensive linemen. It's just a big turnover on defense for them now. I think they've got some talent there. You still got Dylan Stewart, but can he be enough? Can Lenore Sellers take his game to the next level and be better than what he was last year? I think he can, but he's got to make that move, right? Yep. What's a team that is ahead of Oklahoma you think, okay, maybe not deserve to be there?
The only one I would push back on is Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the only one. Now, they started the season off very hot last year, and then it teetered down, but they lost some defensive players to the draft. They had a solid draft, and in that case, let me ask you this, John. Are we going to finally see David Hicks show up? Or is he going to enter the transfer portal and come to Oklahoma like everybody's been saying like the last 2 years? Which one are we going to get when it comes to David Hicks? I know, guys, I am sorry. I did just open up a wound that you all thought was healed. I apologize, but I'm still asking the question, John. David Hicks, is he there?
I mean, to me, it has more to do with, can Marcel Reed evolve as a passer? Because you can't be a one-trick pony. You can't just run the ball as a quarterback. And he's going to have to improve. And I think A&M had opportunities, and they were big opportunities, but his limitations as a passer last year really stood out. I think he can evolve and he can improve and get better, but he's going to have to show that for me to take A&M seriously as a top 5 team in the SEC. For Oklahoma, I mean, could they be a top 6 team in the SEC? Possibly, but still a lot has to go right. And as much as we're encouraged and optimistic about what Oklahoma can be in 25, I think they still have a lot to prove as well. They've got to prove that offensive line can be an SEC type offensive line. They've got to prove that John Mateer is legit, that he can go and put up top 2 SEC numbers this next season, because they're going to need him to. They've got a lot that they've got to answer for after a 6-7 season, but we're feeling encouraged and optimistic. What do you think of Texas at number 1 before we get out of here?
Everyone is buying the hype of Texas. Returning production is still pretty. Actually, no. They bring back a lot of defensive players. Mm-hmm. So if Arch Manning is as advertised at Colin Simmons, 2 dudes that I hope don't play when we do Red River. I actually like both of those players. I think they're very good players. Malik Muhammad at their corner. They've got solid defense. The interior, they had to rebuild. They went and picked up a whole bunch of transfer portal guys, which I need to go dig into and kind of see who they grabbed and see who everybody grabbed and be able to assess what that looks like. But for Texas is all on Arch Manning. Mm-hmm. Their offense is completely reshaped. Guys have gone in the wide receiver room again, running back room. They've got a lot of changes have happened and a newer, younger offensive line. So if Arch and that offensive line gels and things work out well for them, then they should be able to show up. But everybody's riding off Texas over the last couple of years, which I get. I still don't understand why we still are discounting Georgia after what Georgia did to them last year, and it's done to everybody the last couple of years. They won an SEC championship for the first time in 4 years? I think it's 4 years. Because they was winning national championships, they weren't winning SEC championships. Alabama kept knocking them off, which is always the funniest thing. But I think we need to pump the brakes on that portion of it. And we probably should keep respecting Georgia as the top team until they lose the conference championship.
Yeah, as much as I think Arch Manning can be a really good quarterback, I just don't know if Texas is set up for him to be that this year.
Fair.
And putting number one team in the nation, number one team in the SEC, number one in the Heisman race, number one overall pick in the 2026 draft, putting all that out there before the dude has played and started a significant game. Now he goes to and he plays against Ohio State and he plays a great game. Then, okay, I'll let the hype get off the rails a little bit. Agreed. He plays great in Red River. Then by all means, let the hype train run. But the 2 starts that he made last year against the 2 teams that he played against should not be enough for people to be like, yeah, he is it. He is for real. He's that dude. So listen, I think he can be good. I think he's going to be really good. I just think that Texas fans are setting themselves up for some disappointment this year by allowing the hype train to go out of control. What's not out of control? Oklahoma softball. The Queens stay the queen. They are back on top. We'll discuss that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.